Poverty is a heavy word. It is not only about money. It is about pain, about shame, about feeling small in a big world. Poverty can take away food from your plate. It can take away shoes from your feet. It can take away comfort from your home. But there is one thing poverty cannot take away. It cannot take away hope. Hope is like a small candle in the middle of a storm. Even when everything is dark, that candle still shines. This is the story of one boy who lived in poverty. He had no rich clothes, no warm blanket, and sometimes no meal at night. His life was full of problems, but inside his heart, he carried a secret weapon. That weapon was courage. That weapon was a dream. He believed that his future could be different from his present. He believed that even though he was born poor, he did not have to die poor. His story is not just about money. His story is about fighting with courage, about standing tall even when life tries to push you down. His story is also about you. Yes, you. Because you, too, face struggles. Maybe your struggle is not poverty. Maybe your struggle is fear. Maybe it is doubt. Maybe it is learning English. Maybe people laugh at your mistakes. Maybe you feel small when you cannot find the right word. But just like this boy, you can fight. You can rise. You can grow. His story is a mirror of your story. As you listen today, I want you to feel his hunger, his tears, his lonely nights. But I also want you to feel his strength, his courage, his burning hope. And when this story ends, I want one thing for you. I want you to believe in yourself. Because if a poor boy with no shoes, no food, and no money can fight and win, then you, too, can fight and win against your struggles. You may ask, why should I listen to the story of a poor boy? Why is his life important to me? The answer is simple, because his life is not only his life. His life is a reflection of many lives. His journey is a lesson for all people who struggle. You do not have to be poor in money to understand his pain. Maybe you are poor in courage. Maybe you are poor in hope. Maybe you are poor in English words. That poverty is also real. The boy's story is like a lamp. It shows the way for anyone who feels lost in the dark. His life tells us one important truth: struggles are not the end, they are the beginning. He was a child who was laughed at, pushed down, and forgotten. But he did not give up. He said, "Yes, I am poor, but I am not weak. Yes, I am tired, but I am not broken." These words are not only for him. They are for you, too. Because when you learn English, you may feel the same. Sometimes people laugh at your mistakes. Sometimes you feel afraid to speak. Sometimes you feel too tired to continue. But like this boy, you must not give up. You must say, "Yes, I make mistakes, but I am not weak. Yes, I forget words, but I am not broken." Every mistake is not a wall. Every mistake is a step. Every failure is not the end. Every failure is the beginning of success. The boy's story is like a mirror. When you look at it, you see your own face. You see your own fight. You see your own future. That is why this story matters. That is why you should listen. The laughter of others was like a shadow that followed him every day. When he walked into the classroom, some children giggled. When he sat down, some whispered. "Look at his clothes," they said. "Look at his shoes, oh, he has none." Their words were sharp, like knives cutting into his heart. Sometimes, he wanted to cry. Sometimes, he wanted to run away. But he stayed. He stayed because he had a secret weapon. He knew something they did not know. He knew that poverty was not a prison. Poverty was only a challenge. His true self was not the boy with no shoes. His true self was the boy with courage. His true self was the boy with fire inside. So when they laughed, he clenched his fists under the desk. He told himself, laugh today. Tomorrow, you will see who I am. He promised himself that one day, he would be the one standing tall. One day, he would be the one people respected. The laughter did not break him. The laughter built him. Each laugh was like a hammer. But instead of breaking him, it shaped him. It made him stronger, harder, sharper. Many children who are laughed at become weak. But he became strong. He used pain as fuel. He turned shame into fire. He turned anger into energy. That is why, even when his classmates laughed, he smiled inside. Because he knew their laughter was only for today. But his success would be forever. Most children dream of sweets, games, or toys. They dream of bright balloons, shiny bicycles, and new clothes. But this boy's dream was very different. His dream was not about toys. His dream was about freedom. He wanted freedom from hunger, from shame, from poverty. And he believed there was only one way to reach that freedom, through knowledge. He looked at books the way another child looks at food. His eyes burned with hunger, not hunger for bread, but hunger for learning. Every page of a book was like gold. Every sentence was like treasure. Sometimes, he borrowed old books from friends. Sometimes, he picked up torn pages from the street. He kept them safe, like diamonds. He did not understand all the words. Many times, he read slowly. But he never stopped. Even when his stomach was empty, his mind was full. He told himself, if I feed my brain, one day my stomach will never be empty again. At night, while others slept, he dreamed of classrooms, of exams, of standing on a stage one day. That dream was his secret strength. When the world laughed at his poor clothes, he smiled inside because he wore the richest dream. When people gave him nothing, he gave himself hope. His dream was small on the outside, but inside it was huge. It was the dream that one day he would rise higher than poverty. And that dream kept him alive. In the village, many people said the same thing: if you are born poor, you will stay poor. This is your destiny. But the boy refused to believe this. He did not accept poverty as his final story. He said, poverty is not my destiny. Poverty is only my beginning. Every day, he worked small jobs. He carried water, cleaned streets, and helped farmers. His hands were young, but they were already tired. His body was small, but his will was strong. After work, he did not play like other children. He ran to school, sat on the last bench, and listened with all his heart. When he had no notebook, he wrote on the ground with a stick. When he had no pen, he used pieces of coal. His classmates laughed, but he ignored them. He said again and again, I am poor, but I am not weak. I am tired, but I am not broken. These words became his shield. These words became his song. He worked for his family, but he also worked for his dream. He believed that one day, all this pain would turn into power. He believed that every tear would one day shine as a smile. And so, he refused to give up. The boy's life was heavy with problems, but his determination was heavier. When the sun rose, he worked. When the sun went down, he studied. His days were full of labor, his nights full of learning. Sometimes, he fell asleep with his head on the table, the book still open. Sometimes, he studied under a weak streetlight because his house had no lamp. His eyes burned, but his heart burned even brighter. He told himself, I will not stop. I will not rest. I will not surrender. His determination was like fire. It pushed him forward even when his body wanted to fall. People told him, you cannot. You are too poor. But he answered, watch me. People said, you are wasting your time. But he answered, this time is my weapon. Every insult was like fuel for his fire. Every failure was like wind that made his flame stronger. He lived in a world that wanted him to give up, but he refused. His determination shouted louder than his hunger. It shouted louder than his pain. And slowly, that fire began to light his path. There were many days when he felt alone. No one stood with him. No one cheered for him. Sometimes, even his family said, "Stop dreaming. Just work. Accept your life." Their words hurt him more than hunger. But he did not listen. He respected them, but he followed his heart. He walked a lonely road. No friends to help. No money to guide. No hand to hold. But he was not afraid. He told himself, "Even if I am alone, I am enough. Even if I stand by myself, I will not fall." Loneliness can make some people weak. But for him, loneliness was his teacher. It taught him how to be strong without support. It taught him how to believe in himself when no one else believed. When the world turned away, he turned inside. He looked at his heart, his dream, his fire. That was his company. That was his power. Step by step, he walked forward, even if his feet were tired, even if his eyes were full of tears. He was a poor boy, but inside he was a warrior. And warriors do not stop. Warriors walk until they win. One night, after a long day of work and study, the boy sat under the stars. His stomach was empty, but his heart was full. He looked at the sky and made a promise. He said, "One day, I will change my story. One day, I will not be the boy with no shoes. I will not be the boy with no food. I will not be the boy people laugh at. I will become the man who inspires others. I will become the man who helps others." That promise was like a contract with himself. He signed it not with a pen, but with his courage. He repeated it every morning when he woke up. He repeated it every night before he slept. The promise became his prayer. It became his power. Whenever he felt weak, he remembered the promise. Whenever he felt hungry, he remembered the promise. Whenever he felt alone, he remembered the promise. And that promise lifted him. That promise kept him alive. Because promises to yourself are the strongest promises. They are the ones that shape your life. The boy was still poor. He was still hungry. But now, he was no longer afraid. He was no longer lost. He had a promise, and that promise was leading him toward his future. One day, something happened that changed his life. At school, the boy sat quietly at the back. His shirt was torn, and his notebook was almost empty. He wanted to write, but he had no pen. A kind teacher noticed him. The teacher saw the hunger in his eyes, not hunger for food, but hunger for learning. After class, the teacher walked to him and said, "Why do you sit so silent?" The boy looked down and whispered, "Because I have no books, no pen, no money." The teacher smiled gently and gave him a small book. It was old, with pages turning yellow, but for the boy it was the most beautiful gift in the world. Holding that book was like holding a piece of gold. The teacher said, "This book will not feed your stomach, but it will feed your mind. And a strong mind can change your life." Those words became light inside him. He realized that knowledge was not only important, it was the only weapon he had to fight against poverty. From that day, he carried the book everywhere. He read it while walking. He read it while resting. He read it even under the weak streetlight at night. That gift was small, but it became the key to his future. The book opened a new door in his life. For the first time, he felt that learning could be his escape. Every word was a step out of poverty. Every lesson was a key to freedom. He did not understand everything at first. Sometimes, he read the same page many times. Sometimes, the words confused him. But he did not give up. He whispered to himself, "Slowly, I will learn. Slowly, I will rise." The book taught him stories, numbers, and lessons about the world outside his village. It showed him that life was bigger than his hunger, bigger than his broken house, bigger than the laughter of others. He understood that if he could fill his mind, he could change his life. That day, he made a decision. He promised himself that he would never stop learning. No matter how poor he was, no matter how hungry he felt, he would always study. Because knowledge was free for anyone who wanted it. Knowledge was a treasure that no one could steal. And he wanted to be rich in knowledge, even if he was poor in money. That one book became like a seed. It was small, but inside it carried a whole tree. The boy planted that seed in his heart. Every time he read, the seed grew. Every time he learned, the tree became stronger. Soon, he began to dream bigger. He no longer dreamed only about having food and clothes. He dreamed about standing tall, about helping his family, about teaching others. He thought, if one teacher can change my life with a book, maybe one day, I can change someone's life too. The seed of hope grew into a forest inside him. His hunger was still real. His pain was still heavy. But now, he had something stronger than hunger. He had hope. And hope is the food of the soul. It kept him alive. It kept him moving. It whispered, keep going. One day, your life will change. The boy began to understand something important: knowledge was his weapon. He did not have money. He did not have power. He did not have rich friends. But he had books. He had words. And words could open doors that money could not. He realized that poverty was not his biggest enemy. Ignorance was. If he stayed ignorant, he would stay poor forever. But if he learned, if he studied, if he filled his mind with wisdom, then poverty could not hold him. This thought gave him strength. He no longer felt small when children laughed at him. He no longer felt weak when he walked barefoot. He told himself, yes, I am poor. But I am also powerful. Because I have knowledge. And knowledge is stronger than money. With every page he read, he built a shield around himself. With every word he learned, he sharpened his sword. He was still a child, but inside he was becoming a warrior of knowledge. The boy's days were hard. He worked to earn a little money for his family. He carried heavy loads. He helped farmers in the fields. He cleaned streets. His body was always tired. But when night came, he transformed. Under the weak yellow light of a street lamp, he became a student. He sat with his book, his tired hands turning the pages slowly. Sometimes, mosquitoes bit him. Sometimes, the cold air made him shiver. But he did not move. He whispered the words again and again until they stayed in his mind. Sometimes, he fell asleep with his head on the book. But the next morning, he woke up and opened it again. His classmates studied in warm homes, with food and light. He studied outside, with hunger and darkness. But he studied with fire in his heart. And that fire made him unstoppable. Every day was the same. Work in the morning, work in the afternoon, study at night. His hands grew rough. His back grew sore. But his mind grew sharper. People said, "You are wasting your time. You will never escape poverty." But he refused to believe them. He answered, "Maybe I am poor today, but tomorrow will be different." His nights of study became his secret weapon. Each night, he climbed one step higher. Each night, he moved closer to his dream. His body was tired, but his dream gave him energy. He learned to live with little sleep, with little food, with little comfort. Because he was building a future. He believed that one day, his dreams would feed him more than bread, clothe him more than fabric, and protect him more than walls. He lived two lives, a poor boy by day, a dreamer by night. And that dreamer was slowly winning. Not everyone supported him. Some people laughed. Some people rejected him. Sometimes, he asked neighbors for old books or paper. Many said, "Why waste it on you? You are just a poor boy." You will never succeed. Their words were like stones thrown at him. They hurt. But instead of breaking, he collected those stones. He built a road with them. Every insult became his motivation. Every rejection became his teacher. He told himself, if they believe I cannot, I will show them I can. He did not fight with anger. He fought with effort. He fought with results. And slowly, people began to notice. They saw his eyes, burning with determination. They saw his hands, working and studying. They began to wonder, maybe this boy is different. Maybe he really can rise. Even while studying, hunger never left him. There were nights when his stomach ached so badly that he could not concentrate. There were mornings when he went to school without breakfast. But he told himself, hunger will not defeat me. Hunger will push me. He learned to turn pain into power. Every time he felt hunger, he remembered his promise to his mother. Every time his stomach cried, he answered, be patient. One day, you will never cry again. Hunger taught him discipline. Hunger taught him to focus on what truly mattered. While other children wasted food, he valued every grain of rice. While others wasted time, he valued every minute of study. Hunger was his enemy, but also his teacher. It tested him every day. And every day, he passed the test. Progress was slow. Sometimes, he only learned one page in one night. Sometimes, he only remembered one word after hours of study. But he celebrated every small victory. He told himself, one step today. Another step tomorrow. One day, I will reach the mountaintop. He understood that success is not about speed. It is about not stopping. Even if he moved slowly, he kept moving. And that gave him power. He did not wait for big victories to feel proud. He celebrated the small ones. Each page he read was a victory. Each problem he solved was a victory. And slowly, those small steps became a big journey. People who once mocked him began to notice his spirit. They began to respect him. His spirit was bigger than his hunger, bigger than his poverty. His spirit made him rich even before money arrived. By now, the boy was no longer just a poor child. He was a fighter. Life had tested him again and again, but he refused to break. He faced hunger, shame, rejection, and loneliness. Yet his spirit was like iron. Every challenge only made him stronger. He told himself, pain is temporary. Poverty is temporary. But my dream is forever. He carried this belief everywhere. When his hands were dirty from work, his mind was clean with dreams. When his feet were bare, his heart walked in shoes of courage. He learned that strength does not come from comfort. Strength comes from struggle. And his struggles had built him into someone unshakable. He was still poor, still hungry, still tired. But he was also unstoppable. And deep inside, he knew, one day, the world would see his victory. The boy's hard work began to show results. At school, he was no longer the silent boy in the last bench. Slowly, he began to answer questions. At first, his voice was soft. His words were broken. But the teacher smiled and encouraged him. Each time he tried, his confidence grew. One day, he scored well in a test. It was not the highest mark, but for him it was a mountain climbed. He held the paper in his hands and felt proud. For the first time, he believed, yes, I can do this. The same children who once laughed at him now looked surprised. They began to whisper differently. Before, they said, he is poor, he will fail. Now, they said, how is he doing so well? These small victories gave him power. They were like drops of water for a thirsty plant. Each success made his dream grow bigger. He realized something very important: success is not one big step. Success is many small steps. And each step is proof that the journey is possible. These victories were small to others, but to him, they were the beginning of a new life. 22. Respect from others, almost equals 400 words. Respect is something money can buy, but true respect comes from effort. The boy, who was once the target of laughter, began to earn respect. Teachers noticed his hard work. Neighbors noticed his discipline. Even the children who once teased him began to ask him for help with lessons. This change gave him strength. Respect is like medicine for the soul. It heals old wounds. Each smile from a teacher, each kind word from a classmate, felt like a reward for his pain. He understood that respect is not given for free. It is earned with struggle, with patience, with honesty. He told himself, people may laugh today, but if I keep working, one day they will clap. And slowly, this became true. The boy who had been invisible was now being seen. The boy who was once a joke was now an example. And he realized something powerful: the world does not remember your hunger, your torn clothes, or your failures. The world remembers your courage, your effort, and your success. The boy's transformation was not only outside. Yes, people respected him more, but the biggest change was inside his heart. He no longer felt weak. He no longer felt ashamed. He walked with his head higher. He looked people in the eyes. He believed in his own worth. That belief was more valuable than money, more valuable than food, more valuable than clothes. He had discovered the secret of strength. Strength comes from within. The world outside may be poor, but the world inside can be rich. He built a strong world inside himself. His inner world was full of courage, discipline, and dreams. And when the inside changes, the outside begins to follow. He realized that poverty could not stop him. Only giving up could stop him. And giving up was something he would never do. This transformation was not magic. It was not sudden. It came from years of hunger, years of laughter, years of pain. But all that pain became fuel. All that shame became strength. And now, his spirit was shining brighter than ever. At this stage of his journey, the boy understood the biggest lesson of his life: poverty is not the end. Poverty is the beginning. It is not a wall. It is a doorway. Poverty teaches discipline. Poverty teaches hunger for change. Poverty teaches courage that comfort can never teach. He realized that if he had been born rich, maybe he would never have fought so hard. Maybe he would never have discovered his strength. Poverty was not his enemy, it was his teacher. It showed him pain, but it also showed him power. It gave him struggles, but it also gave him strength. This is the lesson he wanted everyone to know. He wanted to tell the world, do not fear your struggles. They are not the end. They are the beginning. And this lesson is not only about poverty. It is about life. Every person has struggles. Maybe your struggle is money. Maybe your struggle is health. Maybe your struggle is learning English. Whatever it is not your end. It is your beginning. Just like the boy's hunger became his strength, your mistakes and failures can become your power. Now, let us bring his story to you, the English learner listening today. You may feel like him sometimes. You may feel poor in words. You may feel empty when you cannot understand. You may feel small when people laugh at your mistakes. But remember the boy. He was laughed at too. He was rejected too. He was hungry too. Yet he kept going. He turned his hunger into fire. You can turn your mistakes into fire as well. Each mistake you make in English is not a failure. It is a small step forward. Each word you forget is not weakness. It is practice for your memory. Each time you try to speak, even if it is broken, you are building courage. The boy studied under a streetlight. You are listening to this video. The tools may be different, but the fight is the same. His fight was against poverty. Your fight is against fear, doubt, and laziness. If he can win, so can you. Remember, poverty was not the boy's end, and your mistakes are not your end. They are your beginning. And if you keep going, one day you will speak English with confidence. One day, others will look at you with respect, just as people looked at him. Life teaches us through struggles. The boy discovered this truth every day. Hunger, shame, rejection, loneliness, these were heavy stones in his path. But instead of letting them crush him, he used them to build his road. Each struggle became a lesson. Hunger taught him discipline. Rejection taught him courage. Laughter from others taught him patience. Loneliness taught him self-belief. Without these struggles, he would never have become strong. This is a secret of life: comfort makes us soft, but struggle makes us strong. He began to thank his struggles, even though they were painful. He thought, these struggles are not my enemies. They are my teachers. They are preparing me for something bigger. And truly, they did. Because of his struggles, he became brave. Because of his struggles, he never gave up. Because of his struggles, he became unstoppable. When you look at your own life, remember this: the problems you face today are not destroying you. They are shaping you. They are making you ready for tomorrow. Just like the boy, you can turn your struggles into strength. The boy's journey gives us lessons that connect to many parts of life, including learning English. Think about it. When you learn a new language, you also face hunger, not hunger for food, but hunger for words. You want to speak, but sometimes you cannot find the right word. That emptiness is like hunger. But if you keep going, that hunger will push you to study more, to practice more, to grow more. When people laugh at your accent, it feels like the laughter the boy heard about his clothes. It hurts, but it should not stop you. Instead, use it as fire. When you feel alone in your learning, remember the boy walking his lonely road. He walked with courage, and so can you. Every mistake in English is like the boy's empty stomach, painful, but also powerful. It pushes you to improve. Just like him, you must repeat to yourself, I am tired, but I am not broken. I am slow, but I am not weak. I will keep going. His story is proof that success comes from never giving up, no matter how difficult the journey. Years passed. The boy kept studying, kept working, kept fighting. And one day, his dream became reality. He was no longer the poor child with no shoes. He was a man who had knowledge, courage, and respect. He became the person others looked up to. The people who once laughed at him now told his story with pride. His mother, who once gave him the last piece of bread, now ate full meals because of him. He had transformed his life completely. But the most important victory was not outside, it was inside. He had won against poverty, yes. But more importantly, he had won against fear, against doubt, against weakness. That was the real victory. He had proven to himself and to the world that your beginning does not decide your ending. You can start with nothing and still become everything. He fought against poverty, and he won. Now, think about yourself. You may not be fighting poverty, but you are fighting something. Maybe it is fear of speaking. Maybe it is doubt about your ability. Maybe it is laziness that whispers, stop learning. These are your enemies. And just like the boy, you can fight them. Remember, the boy had no shoes, no money, no food, no help. But he still fought. You have something he did not have: you have tools, you have teachers, you have technology, you have this video. You are already richer in opportunity than he was. If he could win with so little, why can't you win with so much? The truth is, you can. But you must promise yourself. You must say, I will not give up. I will not stop. I will keep learning, I will keep practicing, I will keep fighting. And one day, just like the boy, you will look back and say, I have won. So now, the story ends, but your story continues. The boy who fought poverty is not here to speak to you, but his spirit speaks through this story. His message is clear: your struggles are not the end. They are the beginning. Poverty did not break him. Hunger did not break him. Laughter did not break him. And mistakes will not break you. When you feel afraid to speak English, remember him. When you feel weak, remember him. When you feel like giving up, remember him. He turned his pain into power, and so can you. The fight may be long, the road may be hard, but the victory is sweet. The boy fought against poverty and won. You can fight against fear, doubt, and weakness, and you can win with English. So keep listening. Keep practicing. Keep believing. Do not stop. Do not surrender. Do not say, I cannot. Say, I will. Because your story is not finished. Your victory is waiting. And one day, people will look at you and say, here is the one who never gave up. Here is the one who won.